This is the primal scream of a dying regime.
Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. Here's not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Friday, 14th of August, Anno Domini 2026. Harnwell here at the helm on Steve Bannon's War Room. Well, the world watched aghast at the images flooding in across social media a couple of weeks ago of the flooding. There's no other word for this. The flooding of the small sovereign Spanish territory of Ceuta, with what we were told at the time was, I think, 48,000 invaders. The official statistics have been revised up now. They're now pegging this at 72,000 people. With me to discuss the ramifications of this and the next steps is old friend of the War Room, Gonzalo Martìn, Vice President of the political party Democracia Nacional, that is to say, National Democracy. Gonzalo, you're always very welcome on to the War Room. Welcome back. Now, for our largely American audience and largely Protestant audience, before we talk about what's going to happen now, it's important to mention the date. Today is the 14th of August. Tomorrow, the 15th of August. Not a date that will necessarily mean much to most evangelical Americans, but in the Catholic world, it's the solemnity of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary, the Blessed Virgin Mary, into heaven. A big national holiday across all the historically Catholic countries like Spain, like Italy. Bank holiday here in Italy tomorrow. And on this day tomorrow, the Spanish authorities have detected, because they're monitoring the migrants, the invaders' social media channels, they are expecting another invasion to take place tomorrow. There are social media groups that have been set up with some of them have around 400,000 followers. They've been set up in recent days, and the idea is to overwhelm the Spanish infrastructure yet again. Now, whether they're going to be able to do this in the same numbers as a couple of weeks ago will remain to be seen. It's certainly true that the Spanish government has gone through the motions of bolstering the security of the enclave of Ceuta, making it more difficult, especially to enter by swimming from Moroccan territory round the barriers and then landing on the beach of Ceuta. Gonzalo Martìn, first of all then, tell me, what is the state of anxiety like in mainland Spain as we approach this national holiday of tomorrow? I'm assuming there's a certain degree of worry and fear in case the world sees the same sort of images that we saw just a few weeks ago. Tell me yourself, eyewitness account, what is going on in Spain right now?
To take them back to the Iberian Peninsula, because they are really afraid. Yes, taking into account that Ceuta city has a population of 80,000 people, and they were invaded just 2 weeks ago by 72,000 migrants. Imagine the situation of people, how do they feel seeing all those people in the street doing whatever they want, and the police telling the native population of Ceuta they cannot be helped. They cannot help them. The situation is too much for them, and they are not able to help the Spanish citizens of Ceuta.
Gonzalo,
so let
me just stop you there. Gonzalo, what I want to ask you here, and we've got the article that appeared up in this is a translation, an AI translation of the Spanish appearing press. I want to ask you, the police authorities, the civil authorities in Spain are now saying that this is more than just a rumor. That's their official words. So they are expecting something. Do you think the Pedro Sanchez government is serious about pushing back everyone that tries to break in this weekend? I ask this because a lot of pressure now is being put on because the images from Ceuta were so graphic and so unambiguous, so visible a couple of weeks ago, that pressure on the Spanish government is being applied by the other EU member states. So what I want to know from you, because I personally don't trust Pedro Sanchez remotely. I don't think you do either. If you were serious about protecting the integrity of Spain's borders, he wouldn't have granted amnesty to 1.2 million invaders. So we can assume that there's a certain degree of bad faith operating here. But I want to know from you, because you're there in Spain, what do the Spanish patriots feel about what is going on right now? Do they have faith that Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister, is actually going to follow through on what he's saying at the moment? That, he and the authorities are saying that no one's going to come in, we're going to push everyone back, we're not going to give anyone legal status. Do Spaniards have confidence in that, or do they think it's simply press releases to calm down his European allies, his European neighbours, who do want to see some tough action on this?
Yes, exactly what you're saying. Nobody trusts him, and everybody knows what is going on. We have suffered in Spain a similar situation in 1975, when Franco, the dictator of Spain, was in the last weeks of life, and Morocco organized an invasion of the Spanish province of Sahara with the agreement of the Spanish politicians and Spanish future king or the prince back then. And they are trying to organize something similar. This is a kind of they are trying to mobilize the population in order to see if the Spain will have a reaction or not. And they are seeing in Morocco that anytime they want, they can invade Ceuta and Melilla.
Okay, Gonzalo, let me ask you this, because you're the vice president of, I think, one of the most principled political parties against the invasion that is taking place right now. And most commentators would put you, as it were, to the right of Vox, which will have some resonance in amongst our largely American audience. Let me put this question to you, your movement, your political party. How much more patience do you guys have for the national government if you're saying that nobody, what did you say, what was your quote? Nobody trusts Pedro Sanchez to keep the invaders out. That's what I wrote down of what you were saying, nobody in Spain, right? So if that is the case, how much more patience do you have? And if the government fails, now, one of the things that we said here on the War Room was that even though this government was your present socialist Spanish government did give this amnesty to 1.2 million invaders, it was sort of obliged to push the 72,000 invaders back into Morocco within 48 hours, because there would have been, this is what I said here on the War Room, whether I'm right or not, I do not know. But my argument was he was really obliged to push all of those out, even in the face of the recent Spanish Supreme Court judgment, because I said he was running close to getting a revolution in Spain, right? With those pictures. You tell me, you're there, you're a representative of what I would suggest is one of the most inflexible political parties in Spain. What will happen if this government allows a repeat of what happened a couple of weeks ago? If it's true that 400,000 people are now on social media talking about breaking into Ceuta again, tell me what in the mainland, what is your fear of what might happen next?
Well, I hope that not only radical patriots, not only movements like Democracia Nacional, go to the street. We organized a demonstration in front of the Moroccan embassy in Madrid, and thousands of people were coming. So we expect people radicalize, and they understand that they are not good words with Morocco. Morocco is an expansionist country that will to take over Ceuta, Melilla, and also the Canary Island, and they will never stop on that. So we need a government that stop Moroccan pretensions, and the only way is to defend Spanish population. The problem is complex because the population of Ceuta and Melilla, after the democracy, so many immigrants were coming that now 55% of population of Ceuta and Melilla, they have Moroccan roots. So it's very difficult to organize popular protest and people uprising against the government, because already 55% of population, they are not native Spanish. So whenever patriotic movements or yes individuals go to Ceuta and they try to organize something, they are attacked by people with the Spanish flags that they are not Spanish. They are Moroccans that they were born maybe in Ceuta, or they're living in Ceuta since a few years ago, and they go with Spanish flag, pretending to be a Spanish, but they are not.
I have to ask you that statistic again, because we don't have the best connection here today. Let me ask you that question again, that statistic again. Did you just tell me that 55% of modern Spain is not ethnically Spanish?
In Ceuta and Melilla.
In Ceuta, in Melilla, they're the two enclaves surrounded by Morocco. 55% of those two enclaves are not. And do you think that that makes a difference to the enclave's ability or willingness to defend itself further from the invasion?
Yes, because we have the fifth column inside of Ceuta and Melilla. And whenever there is a radical patriot movement like Democracia Nacional, who wants to organize the Spanish native population of Ceuta or Melilla in order to defend our land and our sovereignty, we will be attacked by these 55% of fake Spanish, that they are not Spanish at all. They might have Spanish citizenship and passport, but they are not native Spanish people. They came in the last 80 years, and now they are majority. This is an ethnic substitution.
I need to get this statistic right. 55% are not ethnically Spanish or are ethnically Spanish. Which one is it?
Are not.
55%. 55% of Ceuta is not ethnically Spanish.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow. All right. Stand by, Gonzalo. I just need to do an ad read right now for the show's sponsor, and then I'm going to come straight back to you. Folks, I don't know if you saw the article today in Axios, which said that gold prices have risen to their highest level in more than 2 months. That was this week. That was on Wednesday, hitting $4,465 an ounce. I made an immediate note of that, because that illustrates the point that we say constantly on the War Room, that the fall from $4,500, I think in January, down to the recent figure of $4,000 per ounce was a temporary blip, and the ascension was going to start off pretty soon. That is now clearly underway. It's almost recovered the entirety of what it had lost since January, and all serious commentators are observing that gold is rallying, and in fact crypto apparently is not. So there you go. If you want, there's still expectations that the increases are going to continue. So it really is time to review the situation, feed it into your ChatGPT bots, find out what's going on, and when you get the confirmation that there is something taking place here, take your desire to get in on the action and carry that forward into act. Text Bannon, BANNON, to 989898. Speak to Philip Patrick. Tell him that you heard Axios reporting this week, today in fact, that gold has risen from $4,000 an ounce, now back up to $4,465. Tell him that you can see this going much, much further, and you have a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out, and ask him the technicalities of what you might do. How exactly does one convert an IRA, an old IRA, into an IRA in physical gold? Philip Patrick and his team, they are the experts. Text Bannon, BANNON, to 989898. That's what they're there for. They are there to answer your questions, and in fact do more than that, to actually help you make some purchases of gold. Great news though to do with the spot price of gold today. Back now with Gonzalo Martìn, the deputy leader of National Democracia Nacional. Gonzalo, what I want to ask you in the remaining minutes of this show, as a political party, you're obviously putting a bit of pressure now on Vox, as you're growing in support, growing in resonance, popular resonance. What would you do? Let's be optimistic. What would you do if you found yourselves in the position at the next election of being able to form a government? What would your policies be to stop something like Ceuta ever happening again, specifically perhaps with reference to the Supreme Court sentence that sparked the invasion just like the week or so before? And tell me, if you wouldn't mind, whilst you're detailing that, how your policies on these hot button issues differentiate from Vox.
Well, first of all, if we'll be able to be in the government and to make laws and to change the constitution, we will give priority to Spanish native population, and we will give only the nationality to people that are children of a Spanish mother or father. So they use sanguineous. It means if you don't have a Spanish blood, you cannot have the Spanish citizenship. Other thing is to stay in Spain, that you can have the residency or the green card like in America, but the Spanish citizenship and the passport should be only for Spanish that they have the right by blood. By this law, we will avoid all these 55% of people in Ceuta and Melilla that they are not Spanish. So this is the most important point that we defend, that you can get the Spanish citizenship only if you are the son or the daughter of a Spanish father or a Spanish mother. like this, we will avoid that all these immigrants, they have the right to vote, and that we are being totally erased from our homeland from immigration.
Let me ask you, seeing as you say that, and that's a very strong, very clearly defined policy, you will change the constitution so that nationality is only given to the children of Spanish parents. And by that, you mean ethnically Spanish parents. How exactly, let me ask you this question, how exactly do you go about measuring that? Verifying that?
Well,
how do you say this? How do you say this person is ethnically Spanish and that one isn't?
For Spain, it's not difficult to find who is ethnically Spanish, as Spain is receiving immigration only since the 90s. So we are not a country that is receiving immigration since hundreds of years, like it might be the case of France, for example, or the USA. Spain is a country that was pretty ethnically homogeneous since we expelled the Jewish and the last Moors that they were living in Spain till the 16th century. So after the 16th century, after the Reconquista, Spain was always an homogeneous country. It's true we have a minority of gypsies that they are living in Spain since the 15th century. They are not a big issue, although they make problems, but they are a minority, and it's not the case to remove from them the nationality. But from people who got the nationality with the Spanish Constitution, we believe that they should be removed the Spanish citizenship. They could have the right to stay in Spain. They could have a green card, like, for example, you have in America, but they shouldn't get the Spanish passport and the right to vote. This is what we believe.
All right.
So if you don't have a Spanish blood, you cannot.
Let me synthesize this, right? So your argument is that Spain, pretty much unlike most of the other European countries, is ethnically uniform, right?
Yes, it was.
Before 1990, didn't have a great deal of immigration, so you can work out quite easily who is, inverted commas, Spanish and who is not. Now, that being the case, what are you and you're saying you're going to change the constitution to protect the Spanishness of Spaniards, right? So that citizenship only belongs to people who were basically in the country legally before 1990. The question that I then have is, and you're saying it's not going to be technically very difficult to cancel or to convert the citizenship of people who've come to the country since 1990 and turn it into like a permanent green card status like they have in the United States. The question that I have for you is, looking at the United States right now, President Trump did win the election, certainly in 2016. I would need to check about 2024, about the Dreamers, basically people who were brought into the United States as children, but lived all of they're educated in the United States, lived all of their adult life in the United States, have no real recollection of living anywhere else. Now, President Trump did originally say that he wasn't going to allow that situation to continue, but has found it very difficult, even politically, I think, to deport the Dreamers, to cancel their status and deport the Dreamers. Why? How will you get around that issue in Spain that President Trump hasn't been able to do as yet in America?
Well, it's true that the situation of America with those dreamers that they came maybe 30 years ago, 20 years ago, it has been difficult. But I honestly think once you are in power and you control everything, you control, like now Socialist Party is doing in Spain, they control also the judges, the tribunals. You can have laws in allowing that. And we shouldn't forget what happened during COVID time, that they were able to put the police in the street, controlling everybody to be locked down and not going to the street. So if you have a political will and you are ready to do everything in order to get your goal, I think it's possible. And all that people that they arrive to Spain, most of them, they are maximum second generation of immigrants. So if the parents are from Ecuador, once we remove the Spanish citizenship, they should go to the Ecuadorian embassy, for example, if they want to get a nationality, but they will not get the Spanish nationality. They were born here, but it doesn't mean they are Spanish. It's the same situation many people have in Qatar and in other Arab countries. You can be born in Qatar, in Arab countries, but you will never be a citizen. So I don't think it's so difficult. People understand that if a Spanish citizen or a Spaniard, ethnically Spaniard, is born in China, it will never be a Chinese, and it will never be considered a Chinese man. So
Gonzalo,
I don't think it's
definitely going to have. Gonzalo, we're definitely going to have to get you back on the show to explain this thesis a little more very, very quickly. Where do people go on social media? We see the screen in front of us. Where do people go to check out Democracia Nacional in more detail and follow you guys on social media?
So you can follow us in Twitter. We are also very active in Telegram, and we are also in YouTube, but sometimes they cancel our channel. And of course, they can visit our website. So we feel free to investigate about us, following us, because we are a nationalist party from a country that is in the border of Europe with the rest of the world. Okay. And it will be interesting next year.
That was perfect. As always, please stay in touch with Victoria about these things, and we need to get you back on. I'd be interested to see what the reaction is on social media to the show tonight. We'll need to get back on and talk about this some more. Thanks very much. All right. Thank you, Gonzalo.
Hello, America's Voice family.
Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored.
And it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec,
and so many more.
Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
Welcome back. It's not Friday evening unless we have Ryan the Lion joining us to round up all the developments in the week in the illegal third world invasion into the United Kingdom. Ryan Bridge, as always, thanks very much for coming on the show. Before we do this, before we start, I'm very grateful. I got to give you a shout out. Very grateful that you have come on the show today. As a consequence for all the flying about that you do, you have picked up COVID. You've tested positive for COVID. Dude, it's 2026. How on earth can you be tested positive for a virus that half the world's planet doesn't even think that virus ever existed in the first place? No. How on earth did you even get tested for this?
No, exactly. I've been on my travels as usual, and I've got a little bit of jungle fever. And someone said take the test because it was COVID-like symptoms. I'm a bit groggy and whatnot. But listen, we fight on, we march on. Nothing a bit of paracetamol can't stop. But it has knocked me off my feet. I'm back in the UK. I've got loads of intelligence, loads of information. It's not very good news. It just shows how easy it is from these third world invaders to get across to Europe, and it makes the trip across the channel look like child's play, really, from what we've found in our intelligence gathering mission.
Let's break this down a bit. First of all, I want to know what your on the ground network of sources are feeding into you. First of all, however, as the prelude to that, you were the first person who told me about these mega dinghies on this show a few weeks ago. In fact, we were using air quotes, I think, because the term. There's some of the people saying that some commentators were saying these so-called mega dinghies didn't even exist. And then a couple of weeks later, I mean, you said it's like 165 people, and a couple of weeks later, we had the press cuttings of it was 165 people. Then a couple of weeks later, we had 185 people. Folks, this very week, a mega dinghy arrived from France to the south coast of England, crossing the channel. It had on it 230 people. There it is, right there. It was so overloaded. The French, I think it was the French Coastal Service, said it looked as if it was buckling in the middle. It was only 15 meters long. Ryan, first of all, give me your reaction to this. But first of all, I am gobsmacked that the British government is pushing out the line that the fact that these mega dinghies are ever and ever larger is a sign that their policies are working. Folks, this is the gaslighting that's taking place in the UK right now. They are literally reduced to saying the number of actual crossings are down, but the boats are getting larger. This means pressure is successfully being brought on the people traffickers, the people smugglers that are constrained to overload these boats larger and larger. That's the official position. Ryan, I can only liken that. Like if I had a pet cat that I said I owned because its job was to catch mice, and you came in and you saw a fat cat sleeping by the fire and huge mice just waddling in front of it. And I was saying, oh, don't worry about it. The cat catches so many mice. It's so full with the mice it catches, it can't even get the energy to go over the ones that it still sees. You'd say, Ben, you need to get yourself a new mouse. So that cat is overfed. You're overfeeding it and it's not doing anything. Likewise, when these people are saying, when the British government is saying, this is a sign of our success. Well, the truth is, correct me if I am wrong, but 10 years ago, in 2016, Ryan Bridge, the average size of these dinghies was 7 people, right?
Correct.
10 years later, the last month, the average size is 70. That is an increase of 10. And now that isn't really taking on board the mega dinghy statistics, which is going to take this figure through the roof. This isn't success that we're looking at, Ryan Bridge. This is failure.
Correct. This shows to me, Ben, that it's completely orchestrated from the top. And the reason I'm making such a bold statement as that is because back 10 years ago, when we stopped the illegal invasion through the Channel Tunnel and through the lorries and in the back of cars due to X-ray machines and due to our government spending near on 660 million on securing Calais, where these guys were just literally running and jumping on the back of lorries and hanging on for dear life. Now it's gone to the water. And since it's gone to the water, yes, these dinghies had 10 people on and the next one would have 5 and the next one would have 15 and maybe you'd get a maximum of 20. And because the dinghies were so small, so sporadic and would launch at such a rate where we couldn't keep up with the numbers, and they was just coming onto British beaches and literally walking off the beaches, and there was dinghies just floating. Now it's more of an orchestrated mission where you have the French search and rescue, guided by the French Coast Guard, guided by a French warship, guided by a UN warship in the Channel, which then is orchestrating with our RNI lifeboat from Britain and our search and rescue boats from Britain. And it's more of an orchestrated invasion. So for these people now to do this in front of our eyes and put over 200 people on one boat, I mean, how do you inflate a dinghy this size? How do you embark it onto the water? I was out there and we was digging up the boats where they was trying to bury them, but they didn't bury them very cunning. They wasn't like the cat you're talking about and the mice. It was so brash and blatant to see that we could literally discover these boats and stop it. But for this now near 200 people taxi boat to be literally going up and down the coast, in the view of the search and rescue, is just a complete disgrace. And I think it shows that, whereas the week before, when somebody died in the sea, you had helicopters, search and rescue planes, air ambulances, every sort of medical emergency team was there. Why can't they do this when they're trying to break into the country? Why is it only when there is a fatal disaster?
I want to ask you more about what you mean when you call that a taxi service, because the idea is that these ferries, these dinghies launch at lightning speed in pitch black dark, from France to the southern coast of the UK. I gather, and I'll ask you to break this down, I gather actually that's not true at all. They start off and then they skirt along, as far as I can tell, the northern coast of France on picking ups, just like a train stopping at several stations before it finally goes on. These things, with modern technology of drones and satellites, I think these things can be followed and checked. You even see people gathering by the piers, ready. You know, you can see this. But first of all, before I come to ask you to break down exactly what is going on, the full horror of how these traffickers organize these, as you call them, orchestrated missions, I've got to give a quick shout out to our sponsor of the second half of the show, which is Paradigm Press. I'll just quickly say this, that Jim Rickards has a blindingly good strategic intelligence newsletter that's delivered straight into the inboxes, and he's making this available. If you go to rickardsintel.com, I'll spell that out for you just one moment. He's put this flagship newsletter together at a very special competitive price of $17.76. That's $17.76. And all I can say is I pay, because I subscribe to the full Jim Rickards service with all the newsletters of all his contributors, and I pay a lot more than $17.76. That is a great deal. If I wasn't tied in on a 6-month subscription, I can tell you this, I vouch for this, I would be taking that strategic intelligence newsletter without any persuasion whatsoever. I absolutely guarantee that. I vouch for that myself. Okay, so it's rickardsintel.com, RICKARDS, Rickards, all one word, Intel. INTEL, rickardsintel.com. Special landing page, special offer to subscribe to strategic intelligence. And you've all heard Jim Rickards on the show. The guy is a geopolitical genius. So, and I promise you, I pay a lot more than $17.76 to get strategic intelligence. You should definitely take avail yourselves of this great offer right now. All right, back with Ryan Bridge. Ryan the Lion. Ryan, tell me, so it's not like under the cover of darkness, quick lightning speed jump across the channel, is it? These things are taking place in full light of day, and multiple stops across they're loading up these mega dinghies. And I'll say this as well, no wonder the motors of these dinghies are burning out, because some of these things, they pack up after like half a mile, because these dinghies are so overloaded with people that standard motors can't cope with the weight. And everyone is just watching this take place. And then we send down, as you said, the Royal National Lifeboat, send their guys down and ferry these people out of the channel and take them all the way up from the north coast of France, all the way across the channel into England. Tell me the full horror of how this actually plays out.
So, Ben, like you say, it is a complete horror, and it plays out exactly that a taxi boat will be in the water, and there will be pockets of illegals stood on the beach that have been given their supplies from the non-government organisations. They've been given their sandwiches and drinks to go, as opposed to the standard camp food where it's pots of stew. So this is orchestrated. The people in the camps, the NGOs, they know when the boats are going to be leaving. They know when the taxi boat's going to be coming up the coast. And they escort the people into the water. And that's why I can't believe that the NGO organisations aren't being held to be accountable for assisting an offender, basically. These people are breaking into a country illegally. I believe that the police and the maritime law needs to be completely looked at with an immediate effect, because this isn't where they're swimming out. These people are in knee-deep water. These people are in knee-deep water. You've got numerous photographers stood there taking pictures for social media. I believe that Raise the Colours was banned because we were the ones that was actually horrified trying to stop this and go, "What? You must not get onto that boat. This isn't allowed. It is illegal." You know, these people are from a third world. They were literally, looking at the colour of my skin and listening to what I was saying and stopping and standing still when I said, "You must stop." So it can be stopped, and it must be stopped. We can't afford to keep letting these people come in at the rate that they're coming in. And now they're doing these mega super dinghies. It's not a small boat crisis anymore. It's an invasion crisis. It's a national security crisis. The Home Office have said that they are looking into the manufacturers of the boats from China. The Home Office, first and foremost, it's not from China. The boats are made in Germany. We have found that information out. They're made in Germany. The engines were from China. We found the engines. We found the boats. We put all this out there, and they didn't want to speak to me about it. They wanted to near on ban me from going to that country. So we are doing our best at Raise the Colours now to get the funding to get the ban lifted. And then we'll go out there and do the work for them. But this is an easy job that can be stopped quite easily. It's not an assault or invasion by some, Russian bloody telescopes or anything like that. This is an invasion of third world people jumping on a taxi boat.
Let me ask you about this, right? Because there's either in the Times or the Telegraph today breaking down that you cited as the Home Office saying that they've discovered that these boats are being manufactured in China and then sent through to Germany as a depot, and then being sent from Germany to the north coast of France for the actual crossings themselves, the channel crossings themselves. Did I understand you correctly? Did you just tell me that you had actually approached the British government beforehand, before the revelations of the British press today and yesterday, this week? Are you telling me that before this, you actually approached the British government with your own intelligence that you and you Raise the Colours have garnered on the ground, and they basically blew it back in your face, said we weren't interested?
Yes, 100%, Ben. We approached Shabana Mahmood, who is the Home Secretary at the British Home Office, and Shabana Mahmood refused to see me at Raise the Colours. I also tried to speak to Shabana Mahmood with Siobhan White, who is the mother of Rhiannon White, who is a girl that was walking home from work and got bludgeoned by a Sudanese migrant 23 times in the back of the head whilst she was waiting to collect her train home. This guy had been in the country 11 weeks and was given in a small boat dinghy and was given a hotel to live in, and he bludgeoned her to death. I also approached Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, and said, I would like to come and see you with this lady, with this grieving mother, and she rejected that also. So it seems to be just a blanket ban of anybody that objects people that oppose people breaking into our country. And that's what we're fighting against.
Let me ask you this. You saw that Nigel Farage successfully won his by-election down in Clacton this week. Given that, therefore, there's no discernible political wind changing with regards to Reform UK right now, do you think that reality, the political reality of Nigel Farage's continuing political viability, is going to put any realistic pressure on the new Andy Burnham government that Keir Starmer blew off beforehand? That is to say, do you expect there to be any substantial difference in the Labour government between now and the next general election because of the presence, the continued presence and continued reaffirmed viability of Nigel Farage?
I do, yes. I mean, I think Nigel Farage is the biggest threat to the Labour government in all these years. I believe that Farage and his ideas, I believe that the British people just want to see something or somebody that is pro-British. And whether they've got their ducks in a row or in the right row is another story. But for us as British citizens who love the British flag, who love British values and traditions, we need a pro-British government, and we need it like yesterday. We are under threat in our cities, in our homes, in our towns. The border is basically, you might as well say we have open borders. And it is a real scary time to live in the UK. The UK is demographically changing at a massive, massive rate. And the people that are coming aren't refugees, aren't people fleeing wars. These are people that are economic migrants, and we do need that massive change. And I believe that 5-6 years ago, when we all voted Brexit and the majority did vote out of Europe, that I believe that Nigel Farage was the guy that then should have then took on the government for a national referendum, but it didn't happen. He sort of went off the boil for 5 years, and now he's back with this boom. And I hope that we do get a pro-British government in the very near future, because if we don't, I believe that demographically our country will be changed forever. We will lose our British values and traditions. It's already been seen to be racist if you're flying the flag of the UK.
I've only got like 60 seconds for this. But before, earlier on in the show, we had Gonzalo Martìn, who's the deputy leader of National Democracy in Spain. And he was saying that the Spanish enclave of Ceuta now has a 55% population that's not ethnically Spanish. And he suggested that the high presence of invaders that are there anyway acted as a fifth column with regards to the recent invasion a couple of weeks. Look, I don't even have a minute for this. Do you have a quick response to that with regards to the UK and the threat that the UK faces? 45 seconds, if you can.
I believe that what that guy's ideology and thoughts are, I don't know too much, but if we were to do that in the UK, all that people like me would be classed as is Nazis, far right, racist, bigots. But I believe that's what does need to happen in the UK. It's not about... There's a fine line between being right-minded and being far-right extremists. And the problem that you've got in the UK is that there is very far-left extremists that are dangerous people, and it's the far left that we need to eradicate. So that's what raisethecolors.org.uk is trying to do, and we want to make people believe that you're not far right if you love your country and you love your flag and you think that your borders should be closed and clear. So perhaps this guy, I'm going to research him some more, Ben, and we can chat about him.
raisethecolors.org.uk. Go there, folks. Help Ryan the Lion out. Get some merch and give support to the movement. That's all we've got time for. Ryan will be joining us next Friday as well. I'll say that now. Thanks to Rob at Real America's Voice for holding the show in the technical issues that we had earlier, and to Vittorio Santi Franco, who put this show together. Steve back 10 a.m. tomorrow. God bless.